The top stories tonight in Y News. The Philippine Red Cross has not yet resumed its COVID-19 testing services in NAIA despite PhilHealth's partial payment yesterday.
An employers group calls on the Philippine government for no interest and collateral-free loans for 13-month pay.
The Health Department is willing to cooperate with the Office of the Ombudsman on the investigation against 5 suspended health officials. The DOH, however, vouches for the officials' integrity. Senate President Vicente Soto III is confident that President Rodrigo Duterte can sign the proposed 2021 national budget before the year ends.
Koh Samui or Samui Island in Thailand remains safe and COVID-19 measures are in place according to Thailand's health minister.
Wishers will experience a different vibe of the Wish Music Awards next year. Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Wednesday, October 28, 2020. I am Harleen Delgado.
Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the country and in other parts of the world. I'm Angelo Castro III.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am William Theo.
First in the news, the Philippine Red Cross has yet to resume its COVID-19 testing services. This is despite PhilHealth's partial payment yesterday. Joan Nano tells us why.
Transportation Undersecretary Raul Del Rosario, who manages the one-stop shop in NAIA, confirms that they are still waiting for a formal coordination from the National Task Force Against COVID-19 on the resumption of PRC swab testing on returning overseas Filipino workers. The government assures that the 12 laboratories they have partnered with are still functioning in order to fast-track the processing of swab test results. Last night, PRC Chairman and CEO Senator Richard Gordon announced that they will be resuming their swab testing in the airport immediately upon receiving the payment from PhilHealth. Senator Gordon also demanded that PhilHealth should settle the remaining balance in the next 3 days.
We're not waiting. We're preparing a letter saying we thank you for your payment, but we need you to pay the full amount in accordance with the contract.
On the other hand, PhilHealth has yet to give its comment on PRC's deadline because the agency still needs to discuss the matter with the Office of the President. Joan Nano, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
A group of employers call on the government for a collateral-free and no-interest 13th-month pay loan. Vincent Arboleda will tell us why live. Yes, Vincent?
Yes, Harleen, a group of employers fear that small businesses might not be able to provide a collateral or pay high-interest loans when availing loans to be able to give their rank-and-file employees their 13th month pay. According to Sergio Ortiz Luis Jr., president of the Employers Confederation of the Philippines, they are requesting the government to somehow ease the requirements for loans.
We requested for a loan interest-free, saka yung walang collateral, only to those who want to pay 13-month pay. Pwede na yun. Okay na okay.
Malacanang admits that the government can no longer provide subsidy to businesses for the 13th month pay. Instead, the government will offer loans. According to presidential spokesperson Harry Roque, they have identified rural banks and the Small Business Corporation or SBC for the loans. Roque says the SBC has 10 billion pesos. 6 billion of which will be allotted for the tourism businesses, while the remaining 4 billion pesos will be for micro, small, and medium enterprises or MSME. Ortiz maintains they understand that the government is also struggling due to the pandemic. Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello III has encouraged MSMEs to avail of the government's loans as it is mandatory to give the 13-month pay. Harleen?
Vincent, with the current developments in the issue on 13th month pay of rank-and-file employees of private companies, are there any reactions from those employees?
Harleen, according to Alan Tanhusay, spokesperson of the Trade Union Congress of the Philippines, it is a big thing for employees to receive their 13th month pay, especially since we are still feeling the difficulties brought by the COVID-19 pandemic. Tanhusay also adds that the 13th month pay won't just be beneficial to employees, but will also help spur our country's economy. Harleen?
Thank you so much, Vincent Arboleda, for those updates.
Meanwhile, spokesperson of the Interior Department Undersecretary Jonathan Malaya warns local officials they must be on alert against scammers. He said there are scammers who are extorting money in exchange for assistance. Malaya advises local government officials to be careful of criminal syndicates who call and text mayors saying the DILG will help them in exchange for money. Malaya said he himself had fallen victim to such scammers but did not give further details. What the public and local officials must do is to verify the authenticity of the call and immediately report scams to authorities.
The Joint Task Force COVID Shield wants an online platform for the processing of travel pass-through permits, but a TPP or travel pass-through permits won't be needed if the local government of a traveler's destination still requires travel authority. Lea Ilagan clarifies why.
After some areas in the country were placed under modified general community quarantine and general community quarantine, a number of local government units loosened their requirements in accepting locally stranded individuals or LSI and non-authorized persons outside of residence or APOR. This is why travel authority is no longer needed in unrestricted areas. But Joint Task Force Coronavirus Shield Commander, Police Lieutenant General Guillermo Eleazar clarifies that if a non-APOR wants to pass through a restricted town or province before reaching an unrestricted area, that non-APOR must secure a TPP or travel pass-through permit.
So, gagawa tayo ng format or template para makukuha niyan, pero mas madali yan kaysa doon sa travel authority dahil wala nang gagawing koordinasyon doon sa pupuntahan.
Eleazar adds they aim to use an online platform with the help of the Department of Science and Technology for the faster and more efficient processing of TPP. The Joint Task Force Coronavirus Shield Commander further explains that if the local government of the destination still requires a travel authority, then the non-APOR and LSI will not need a TPP. The now unrestricted areas include the National Capital Region, Pangasinan and Dagupan in Region 1, Bulacan, Pampanga, and Angeles City in Region 3, some parts of Calabarzon, Occidental Mindoro and Palawan in Mimaropa, and Camarines Sur and Daga City in Bohol, Antique and Iloilo City in Region 6, Cebu City, Lapu-Lapu, Mandaue and Negros Oriental in Region 7, Biliran and Tacloban City in Region 8, Cagayan de Oro in Region 10, Davao City in Region 11, South Cotabato and General Santos City in Region 12, Agusan del Norte and Butuan in Caraga, and Maguindanao and Sulu in Bangsamoro Autonomous Region. Lea Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, the country's Department of Health says that 2,053 new cases were reported today, raising the total confirmed cases of coronavirus infection in the Philippines to 375,180. Caloocan City and Quezon City in Metro Manila are the top two cities that recorded the most new cases today, both with more than 100. We are still the 20th among countries hard hit by the coronavirus pandemic. The total active cases today further rose to almost 39,000. 83% of those are in mild condition and 11.1% are asymptomatic. We have lost 61 more patients. But through our fervent prayers, medical interventions, and sacrifices of our medical frontliners, 540 more people have won their battle against the invisible enemy. That brings the total recoveries nationwide to more than 329,000. That's the 15th highest number of recoveries around the world. Thanks be to God.
Let's now take a closer look at the updated count of coronavirus cases around the world. The COVID-19 pandemic has now reached a total of over 44 million confirmed cases in 189 countries, regions, and sovereignty. That's after more than 357,000 new cases were recorded across various countries since yesterday. The United States of America still has the most number of COVID-19 cases and the highest death toll until today. The fast-spreading disease has claimed more than 1.1 million lives, including almost 5,000 new death cases linked to the COVID-19 in the last 24 hours, while close to 30 million patients across the globe have recovered from the new coronavirus infection. Thanks be to God. The Health Department is willing to cooperate with the Office of the Ombudsman on the investigation against 5 suspended health officials. The DOH, however, vouches for the officials' integrity. Our health correspondent, Aiko Miguel, details why.
The Health Department has received the preventive suspension order of the Office of the Ombudsman on 5 DOH officials. The suspension is due to the supposed late release of benefits of medical frontliners and anomalous procurement of personal protective equipment amid the pandemic. The 5 suspended officials are DOH Assistant Secretary Mylene Beltran, Health Human Resource Development Bureau Director Kenneth Ronquillo, DOH Administration and Financing Team Dr. Roger Tong-An and Dr. Loriano Cruz, and DOH Administrative Officer Esperanza Caratin. According to spokesperson Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere, although saddened, they are willing to cooperate with the Ombudsman in investigating the matter.
The decision coming from the Ombudsman. And alam nyo, lungkot na lungkot po kami that at this time of the pandemic, nagkakaroon po tayo ng mga ganitong sitwasyon. But of course, ang sabi nga natin, ang kagawaran ng kalusugan po, lagi po kaming bukas sa anumang mga investigasyon na gagawin at kung ano po ang kailangan ay tayo ay mag-a-abide dito po sa mga proseso ng ating gobyerno.
The DOH hopes the investigation will be done the soonest possible time. The Health Department also vouches for the officials' integrity.
These officials had been with us for decades already. Nagbigay na ho ng ganong sakripisyo, commitment, and integrity-wise, sila po ay mapagkakatiwalaan. So, ang aming hiling lang nga po, sana mapabilis po ang resolusyon ng kasong ito para po makabalik na po sa dati nilang trabaho ang ating mga officials because in this time of pandemic, kailangan ho namin ang mga tao namin. And these 5 people, are playing critical roles in our response to this pandemic. So hopefully po matapos na at magkaroon na po ng normal situation again para po sa aming 5 officials na ito.
Undersecretary Vergere adds the suspended DOH officials can still return to their duties once the probe is completed and there is a final decision. Meanwhile, the DOH is also open on the lower house's investigation on Health Secretary Francisco Duque III.
The Secretary has always mentioned, bukas po tayo para sa anong investigasyon na kailangang gawin based on the process of government. Ito naman po ay nag-a-abide tayo kung anong man ang kailangan nilang kooperasyon galing sa ating Department of Health and galing po kay Secretary Duque ay gagawin po natin para lumabas ang katotohanan. So we will be cooperating at bukas po tayo dito sa mga ganitong investigasyon.
Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Department of Foreign Affairs assures that its response will be severe to the fullest extent of the law on the case of the Philippine ambassador to Brazil. But it must wait for a go-ahead signal from the Office of the President to investigate the allegations against the Filipino diplomat. Our Malacanang correspondent tells us why.
Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin reiterates that the DFA is giving its utmost attention to the incident of physical abuse by Philippine Ambassador to Brazil Marichu Mauro on her household staff. In a statement, Secretary Locsin assures the DFA's response on this matter involving a high-ranking DFA official will be severe to the fullest extent of the law. This is to guarantee that matters like this will never be tolerated. The DFA is determined to implement the sanctions and administrative or criminal charges against Ambassador Mauro if the results of the investigation demand such. The DFA is also reviewing the policy of allowing Filipino diplomats to take Filipino domestic helpers from the Philippines rather than hiring them locally in their foreign post. According to reports, the Foreign Affairs Department is forming a panel to investigate Mauro as soon as she returns to the Philippines in the first week of November. Aside from the allegations of physical abuse, the DFA will also look into a possible security breach that could have been committed in relation to Mauro's case, particularly how Globo News, a Brazilian news channel, was able to obtain a copy of the internal CCTV footage from the diplomat's official residence. DFA will get authority from the Office of the President for their actions against Mauro. According to Republic Act No. 7157 or the Philippine Foreign Service Act of 1991, the chiefs of mission or the ambassadors shall not be investigated unless there is an express written directive from the Office of the President. Mauro was recalled by Secretary Locsin after the allegations of physical abuse were made. Rosa Licos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Senate President Vicente Soto III is confident that there will be no major setback in passing the 4.5 trillion peso national budget on time. This was after the House of Representatives transmitted the copy of the 2021 General Appropriations Bill yesterday, a day earlier than what Soto himself requested to House Speaker Lord Alan J. Velasco. According to the Senate President, the early submission would give enough time for the subcommittees to consolidate their reports to the Senate Committee on Finance. Soto said Committee on Finance Chair Senator Sonny Angara can sponsor the bill to the plenary on November 10 or a day after Senate's early resumption of session. He adds they are eyeing to finish the period of interpellations on November 11 to 17 and the period of amendments on November 24. Soto is also confident that there would be no problem during the bicameral conference as they target to approve its report on December 8. He expects that President Duterte can sign the bill before the year ends.
We still have to work overtime because there are 27 departments, 100 plus agencies, 100 plus kung ano-ano mga bureaus. We will probably end up every day around 12 midnight or 1 a.m. para lang matapos namin yung period of interpellations by the 17th.
According to Soto, one of the budgets to be scrutinized is that of the Department of Public Works and Highways amid the controversies hounding the agency. Earlier, some senators, particularly Senator Panfilo Lacson, questioned some items in the DPWH proposed budget, including the alleged billions of lump sums and reappropriations. Soto also assured that they will not soft pedal in scrutinizing the DPWH budget when asked how would the presence of Senator Cynthia Villar, the mother of DPWH Secretary Mark Villar, would affect their deliberations on the agency's budget.
We will not soft pedal on DPWH. At saka knowing Cynthia, hindi inahayaan naman niya eh. I've seen it in the past eh. Ang daming interpellations sa DPWH, hindi naman siya nang aawat eh. It's all right.
Meanwhile, Senate Minority Leader Franklin Drilon said he will fight for higher augmentation of funds for the purchase of COVID-19 vaccine and financial aid under the Department of Social Welfare and Development.
In other news, the Mines and Geoscience Bureau identifies landslide-prone areas in the country. Pagasa warns residents in elevated areas of possible landslides as downpours continue. Let's find out why from Asher Kadapan Jr.
The Mines and Geoscience Bureau under the Department of Environment and Natural Resources has listed the provinces in the country that frequently experience landslides. These include Benguet, Mountain Province, Nueva Vizcaya, Kalinga, Apayao, Southern Leyte, Abra, Marinduque, Cebu, Catanduanes, and Ifugao. According to the DENR-MGB, landslides happen in mountains and high elevated places that are softened and become unstable due to heavy rains. The National Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council, or NDRRMC, has confirmed 17 landslides at the onslaught of Typhoon Quinta in various regions. The Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical and Astronomical Services Administration, or Pagasa, explains the heavy rains brought by the typhoons that struck the country just within October pose a higher possibility for incidents of landslides. According to Rosalina de Guzman, chief of Pagasa's Climatology and Agrometeorology Data Section, the combined rainfall from typhoons Ophel and Quinta shows a 150% increase from the normal volume of rainfall in Legazpi City, Albay this month.
So, alam natin na masyado ng basang-basa na yung lupa. So, konting pag-ulan ay talagang magkakaroon na din tayo ng mga pagbaha at paghuhuulit ng mga lupa.
Pag-asa warns residents in landslide-prone areas to take all necessary precautionary measures against landslide as we expect more rainy days to come.
Siguradong may kaakibat na malalakas na ulan na naman na dala yung bagyo na to. So talagang mag-ingat siguro ngayon pa lang magkaroon na ng paghahanda yung mga areas na posibleng tatamaan ng bagyo.
Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
An agriculture advocacy group projects that the price of pork will increase despite a decrease in its supply. But consumers in Luzon may expect additional supply from Visayas and Mindanao. Ray Palayo tells us why.
The inventory of hogs in Luzon has decreased by 4 million heads according to Samahang Industriya ng Agrikultura or SINAG. The group's president Rosendo So has said that it is equivalent to 65% of the entire production in Luzon. The decrease started since the outbreak of the African swine fever in the country. According to So, producers fear to raise hogs now, minding that they might be affected again by the disease. The Department of Agriculture has previously said the frozen pork inventory is 55% more than last year's, so they are investigating the possible manipulation of pork supply. But Sinag said consumers prefer fresh meats.
Ibig sabihin, hindi gumagalaw yung frozen meat. No? Ang gusto pa rin ng consumer is yung fresh na katay.
Pork prices in Metro Manila markets reached 360 pesos per kilogram. Sinag said it might increase in the coming days if the problem in pork supply is not addressed. The Department of Agriculture said they have coordinated with local hog raisers and traders for the transportation of additional hogs from Visayas and Mindanao. The Agriculture Department is also reviewing the suggested retail price of pork. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Department of Health reiterates that fogging and misting machines are not recommendable. Also, disinfectants must not be sprayed, but instead used to wipe surfaces to kill viruses. Aiko Miguel details why.
The health department has no concrete evidence that fogging and misting machines help kill the COVID-19 virus. This is why the DOH is not recommending the use of fogging and misting machines. The said machines can just help prolong the life of the virus, according to the DOH.
Can cause harm. Another thing, it can cause aerosolization of the virus. That is, meaning po, the virus can stay longer in the air if we use this kind of technologies, no? Ito pong mga misting and fogging.
Based on a World Health Organization report last May, the use of misting with disinfectants may cause skin irritation and respiratory problems. Fogging also causes pollution. Even the use of air purifiers and fog machines are not recommended for indoor use.
These purifiers and mist machines na nakikita ko po na nilalagay sa mga kwarto na umiikot, na may lumalabas na mga usok, yan po yung kasama dun sa sinasabing rekomendasyon ng WHO that it may cause harm, more harm than good.
The DOH reminds the public not to directly spray disinfectants on individuals. Instead, disinfectants must be used in wiping surfaces. Establishments should not install misting tents for public. The DOH explains, misting tents are only applicable for healthcare workers with personal protective equipment. At home, there is an appropriate amount of disinfectant for wiping surfaces. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Now, here's a glimpse of what's the weather like in parts of the country. The Intertropical Convergence Zone, or ITCZ, is affecting parts of the country. State Weather Bureau Pagasa says this weather condition will bring cloudy skies with scattered rain showers and thunderstorms over northern Mindanao, Caraga, Davao Region, Soxargen, Leyte, and Bohol. Meanwhile, the tail end of a frontal system will bring cloudy skies with light to moderate rains and isolated thunderstorms over Batanes and Babuyan Group of Islands, while Metro Manila and the rest of the country will experience partly cloudy to cloudy skies with isolated rain showers due to localized thunderstorms. Meanwhile, Pagasa is currently monitoring a tropical depression outside the Philippine area of responsibility. As of 3 p.m. today, the tropical depression was located at 1,910 kilometers east of central Luzon. It has maximum sustained winds of 55 kilometers per hour near the center, with gustiness of up to 70 kilometers per hour, moving west-northwestward at 10 kilometers per hour. Pagasa said it may intensify into a tropical storm before it enters PAR tomorrow morning or afternoon.
The Department of Justice identifies the government agencies which will face probes due to alleged corruption. Dante Amento tells us why.
Department of Justice Secretary Minardo Guevara discloses 5 government agencies will be subject to investigation by the Anti-Corruption Task Force. These include PhilHealth as continuation of the recent investigation, the Department of Public Works and Highways, Bureau of Customs, Bureau of Internal Revenue, and the Land Registration Authority. Based on the President's memorandum, the DOJ has the authority to decide which agencies will be put under investigation, taking into consideration the gravity of the issue. Secretary Guevara says they have 2 goals in conducting the investigation, aside from prosecuting those involved in corrupt practices. They will also place anti-corruption mechanisms in government agencies to educate citizens about the evil of corruption. The Anti-Corruption Task Force will have its first meeting on Friday, October 30. Their first course of action and priorities are expected to be discussed. Meanwhile, the DOJ has said the Task Force PhilHealth Core Group, which led the investigation on the PhilHealth, will be the same core group on the Anti-Corruption Task Force. The palace assures that the task force will not affect the function of the Office of the Ombudsman and the Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission as the lead agencies investigating the graft practices in government.
So marami pong aasiste at marami pong mga piskal na po pwede mag-conduct ng investigation kung ikukumpira po natin sa limitadong personnel ng Office of the Ombudsman.
Dante Amento, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The House leadership supports the president's directive to conduct an investigation on corruption in the entire government. According to House Speaker Lord Alan Velasco, President Rodrigo Duterte issued the directive due to the alleged involvement of some lawmakers, in the corruption within the DPWH. The lawmaker says the House of Representatives welcomes such probe from any government agency, as it would be self-serving for the lower house to investigate itself. Meanwhile, Surigao del Norte's 2nd District Representative Robert Ace Barbers believes that there is some truth to the allegations.
We've been in politics for quite a long time, so we know that there are people in government that are actually engaged or involved in graft and corruption.
A lawmaker wants the Senate to investigate the influx of Chinese nationals in the country. Senator Kiko Pangilinan has filed Senate Resolution number 558, which seeks to look into whether the seemingly unchecked entry of Chinese nationals to the Philippines is an orchestrated soft invasion of the country. It was found out during the Senate hearing on the so-called Pastilla scheme that around 4 million Chinese nationals have entered the country since 2017. Of that number, 150,000 entered through visa upon arrival issued by the Bureau of Immigration. It was also revealed during the Senate budget hearing of the Tourism Department that 40% of foreign retirees in the country, or almost 28,000, are Chinese nationals. According to Pangilinan, the number of Chinese nationals in the country is alarming, considering the issue on the West Philippine Sea.
And for the news abroad, here's Kath Dumaraos reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand.
Good evening, William. Thailand's Health Minister Anutin Charnvirakul announced that Koh Samui or Samui Island, a cosmopolitan melting pot here in Thailand, is safe and COVID-19 measures are already in place. This is after a 57-year-old woman tested positive for coronavirus 5 days after being released from an alternative state quarantine. The Thai woman was repatriated from France, and after going through the required 14-day quarantine and 2 negative COVID-19 tests, she went back to her hometown in Koh Samui. Although she was not feeling well, she went shopping at a supermarket. More than 100 people who came in physical contact with the woman had been tested for the virus. Their test results came out negative. The country's health ministry also delivered to local hospitals 1,000 tablets of Favipiravir, which has been approved to treat COVID-19 patients with severe symptoms in Thailand. Australia is being urged to prepare for a shift in the global economy as major trading partners move to cut emissions by 2050. Joining us tonight is one of our correspondents in Australia, Marvy Delfin, to tell us why live. Marvy?
Kath, Australia risks losing billions of dollars in export revenue and detaching from crucial trade partners such as Japan, on top of its already deteriorating trade relationship with China. This comes after Japan, the largest importer of Australian thermal coal and liquefied natural gas, announced a target of net zero emissions by 2050. In his maiden policy speech to this nation's parliament, newly appointed Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga said, responding to climate change is no longer a constraint on economic growth for the world's third largest economy. Mr. Suga added, I declare we will aim to realize a decarbonized society. And so Blueprint Institute chief economist Dr. Stephen Hamilton pointed out that the Australian coal industry is in decline. The latest moves from Japan and China underscores the demand for Australia to embrace cleaner energy. On the other hand, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson emphasized the urgent need for bold action to address climate change in a discussion over the phone with Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison overnight. A press release from 10 Downing Street following the call said, Mr. Johnson stressed that we need bold action to address climate change, noting that the UK's experience demonstrates that driving economic growth and reducing emissions can go hand in hand. But interestingly, a spokesperson for Prime Minister Morrison adopted a different tone in their summary of the conversation between the two leaders, saying both countries agreed to work closely together to accelerate research and deployment of low-emission technologies. Mr. Morrison has previously said it is absolutely achievable for Australia to drive down emissions to net zero, but data analysis reveals that it's way behind its target. Kath?
Marvy, the United Kingdom, along with other countries that signed on to the Paris Agreement, has set a goal of reaching net zero emissions by 2050, but Australia has not, despite it being part of the agreement. What is the Australian public's response to its country's climate change plan or lack of plan?
That's right, Kath. As Labour Senate leader Penny Wong puts it, the Australian government is increasingly isolated globally on climate change, and an overwhelming majority of its population believe Australia is already experiencing climate change. The latest Climate of the Nation survey reports that 80% of its respondents think that heating effects are now being felt, and only 12% support the government's gas-led recovery. This just shows that battling a global pandemic and the first recession in 30 years has not prompted Aussies to worry less about the impacts of climate change. Kath?
All right, Marvi, thank you for that report live from Australia. The festive period in December is a critical season that could boost casual employment opportunities for Australians. Mavian Dog from the land down under will tell us why live. Maeve?
Kath, thousands of Australians could see a boost in employment opportunities for the month of December, particularly during the festive period. It is expected that Australians will begin their search for casual jobs as retail stores and shopping centers are opening again. More importantly, in the state of Victoria, where businesses have been closed for months due to the hard lockdowns. According to Australian Retailers Association CEO Paul Zara, this year saw an understandable delay in the hiring of casual workers due to the uncertainty that shops would be able to open because of the current pandemic. But Mr. Zara is also optimistic about the upcoming shopping season, as the reopening of businesses will create extra demand to bolster the retailer's service levels, especially in Victoria, where extra staff would be required for a rapid retail restart. Retailers are also hopeful that the job maker supplement from the federal government will help them open their doors for more casual workers during the critical period in December. The job maker supplement allows employers to claim $200 per week for new employees aged 16 to 29 and an additional $100 per week for 30 to 35 years old. Mr. Zara also explained that December is an important time for retailers as they make up to 2/3 of their profits during this period. Kath?
Maeve, what is the current status of Australians that are struggling to find a job, and will this period be truly beneficial on their side?
Well, Kath, according to the Australian Bureau of Statistics, 1.63 million Australians are underemployed, while those that are looking for work during the crisis are competing with around 106 job seekers for every single entry-level role. The research conducted by the employment group Indeed shows that casual job opportunities already saw an increase of 50% this year. But despite the rising opportunities for employment that was mentioned, the market will also remain challenging and competitive as those with no limited skills are left behind. Kath?
Thank you, Mavian Dog, reporting live from Australia. And those are the reasons behind the news here in Thailand and in other parts of the globe. For those watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on the right side of your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook. William?
Yes, thank you, Kath Dumaraos, reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand.
Wishers will experience a different vibe of the Wish Music Awards next year. Mirasola Bogadil details why.
Song of the Year award goes to...
The Philippine music industry has once again proven its resiliency against uncertainties now that the country continues to battle a pandemic. And Wish 107.5 won't be stopped from celebrating original Pinoy music and the people behind it. This through the 2021 Wish Music Awards. On January 17, 2021, Wish FM will shine the spotlight on the finest Wish-exclusive performances, songs, and artists. Unlike the previous ones, the event will be streamed live via Wish 1075's YouTube channel to ensure the safety of the audience and artists. The festivities will feature performances from prominent OPM acts like Soul Supreme KZ Tandingan, Glock 9, Michael Pacquiao, and singer-songwriters Clara Benin, Keiko Necesario, Lian and Naara, and a lot more. Wishers should also look forward to the first ever performance on the Wish 1075 stage from prominent Filipino band Parokya ni Edgar. A total of 70 acts under 20 musical categories are competing for the coveted WMA trophy and the chance to help various charitable groups. Scores will be cumulatively obtained from the wishers' votes and votes from a select panel of judges. Polling period begins on November 9, 2020 and concludes on January 15, 2021. For the complete list of nominees, just visit www.wish1075.com. Meanwhile, another first that wishers must expect during the Philippines' biggest music awards is the new special award. The Best Quarantine-Produced Song is a special distinction dedicated to artists who have challenged the limitations brought forth by the pandemic to come up with a fresh release that best resonates with the people during these challenging times. This year, 2 awards named after the man behind Wish 1075, Kuya Daniel Rezon, will once again be given to music industry luminaries. The KDR Icon of Musical Excellence Award and KDR Icon of Music and Philanthropy Award. As in the previous years, winning acts of the major awards will be receiving a cash prize worth 25,000 pesos plus an additional 100,000 pesos for their hand-picked beneficiaries. Mirasol Abugadi, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
And those are the reasons behind the news, October 28, 2020. I am Harleen Delgado.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.